Hello and welcome to First Friday Lunch. Sorry, I didn't have the camera up already. Let me get over here to the banners. Oops. Da-da. Welcome to First Friday Lunch. My name is Tina Holland, and I write romance in most of the subgenres. And today we are going to talk about writer's block. Recently, I watched a YouTube video with Rebecca Sine, and she was talking about getting unstuck. So that's another term that people are using these days is writer's block and or getting unstuck, like when you're stuck in the process. So I am currently stuck. Not really bad, but I'm currently stuck on my current projects because I have too many projects going on. I have too many decisions I have to make. Like, should I finish working on this Regency? Should I finish working on Wind Resistant and get that off to Book Boutique so I've got something in the pipeline to sell? Should I work on the second book in the Regency in case I got to change stuff in the first? Should I self-publish? Should I wait to hear back from this publisher I submitted to? All these questions. And so I think a lot of that is bringing stress to me, which is causing me to not write. If you have any comments, by the way, there's the comment section over here. It's over here on my screen. It might be down below or over there or up there, depending on what you are viewing this on. If you're viewing it on YouTube, I think it's off to the side. I think it's right over here. So, but maybe I'm flipped. I don't know. Anyway, if you have any comments, go ahead and put them in on the side. So yeah, so what we were talking about basically is writer's block. So some things that I have done to get over writer's block in the past, and one of the things that Rebecca talked about in her video, and I will link this down below, is I've just either started writing by paper, like I get out a pen and paper as opposed to using my laptop. I will take a break from a manuscript. I will just set it aside and not think about it. And another thing I've done is I will try and rest and relax more and think about story. That's a process that some people have where they have to sit down and they think about it, like doing something else and then kind of thinking about story. I like to scrapbook, so sometimes I'll get creative in other ways and story ideas might come to me. Watching documentaries actually helps me think about story. If I'm watching something about the setting where my story takes place or the history of the time where my story takes place, those are both helpful. Another thing, this one sounds really weird, but I have actually taken a shower because there's something about water that unblocks your brain. And they've done studies on this too, that to help you think about, like, even like for your everyday job, if you have a problem at work and you're trying to solve it, they found that people who shower or spend time with water just think the idea, the solution will come to them. So I will sometimes do that if I'm blocked, but usually if I'm doing that, I'm kind of spending a whole day just doing all the things except writing. And there's nothing wrong with stepping away from a book and doing something else to try and get your creative juices flowing, especially if they're not happening in story. So that's another thing that I'll do. But I think ultimately a lot of this is just the carryover stress from the past 3 years of, not being able to see people, not being able to go out, not having like your whole routine upset. And I had kind of fallen into a pattern. When I find routine, like when I'm consistent on what I do, getting up at the same time every day. So getting enough sleep. When I'm consistent on what I do, where I get up at the same time, I kind of do the same things. I have the same routine built throughout the week. I find that I'm more consistently writing. So when we're working out at our airport, I tend to write fairly consistently because I'm in the same place. I'm doing kind of the same things. Even though I'm working, I might get like 20-minute sprints in. And sprints are helpful to me too, because there's like a timetable to it. And also having a deadline is effective for me as well. But when I'm self-deadlining, that doesn't work so well. I'm just taking a quick sip of coffee there. So yeah, I think these things can be helpful in trying to get you unstuck. So this might be a very short one because nobody's come, which is okay. Because I'm like, well, I just went through my little spiel. I actually have, let me pull this up. I'm going to pull up my slideshow and I'm going to share my screen because that will probably help us get over most of this. And I think this is going to be in like the editing portion. A lot of this too is going to depend on what kind of writer you are. Some people can just push through it and they don't actually experience writer's block like it's a story issue, not necessarily things that are going on in people's lives. But my general feeling is that it's both. Let's see if it comes up with anything. There we go. Okay. One of the things that I find, let me see here. No, nobody's here yet. Okay. Okay, I'm going to share this. And oops, I'm going to do this. Okay. I'm going to share this here. Present. There we go. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Do this. Okay, there we go. Okay, so when you go to finish the book, this is part of the, we can't really talk about getting your book done unless we talk about writer's block. And in my opinion, there's 3 things that will contribute to that. Loss of passion, like you're just not as excited as you were during the first 25 pages. And this is kind of where we were talking about what story is, what is, what is keeping you? Is there like a plot problem, or is there like, have you written yourself into a corner? Pantsers might experience this more, but I think they feel it in a different way. The middle slump, that's also a thing. You don't know where your story is going, or where you wrote yourself into a corner. And then life happens. So this is when we're talking about a significant event happening in your life. Like I was saying, the past 3 years, where I don't know that a lot of writers that were stressed by those situations were able to get a lot of writing done. Some people can, because some people write and it's an escape, but I'm not sure that that was as helpful for everybody. So can I do the, oh, Jesus. Okay. One more. Okay. So loss of passion. This is just like you just aren't feeling what you did during the first 25 pages. Maybe you aren't feeling the story, or you stepped away too long. You forgot you forgot about the plot. Like you stepped away from it for more than however long it takes you to remember your plot. For me, it's probably a couple weeks. And so here's some items that you can do to put it back in. You could draw up some character profiles. If you haven't ever done this before, this is a really good thing to do, because you can just set aside and you can do them up in like Pinterest. You can do them in Instagram. You can make storyboards. Canva has a feature, mood boards that you can make within Canva. So you could put all your characters and everything in there, and that'll kind of help you remember the story, remember the place, remember what you were thinking about. And that's this try visual plotting points, Post-its, spreadsheets, calendars, Google Keep. Also, if you haven't already, write that back copy that you have on your book. Like when you turn a book over and there's that back copy, or when you're looking online and there's a description, write that out. And if you can write it out, and you don't have to write like the end or do any plotting, you just kind of need to write your basic story idea. That will sometimes help you with goal motivation conflict, where you're like, okay, this is what my character needs to do. This is what their motivation is. And these are the conflicts in the story that keep them from getting to their goal. And those can be helpful if it's a character issue. So it'll help you move your story forward. So that's one idea. Another idea is the middle slump. So if you're about halfway through your story and you can't move forward, this is where we're talking more about the plot piece of it. Usually an indicator that you don't know where your story is going, or you're in yourself into a corner. So take a break from technology. That's what I do. I will go and try some old school pen and paper. I have notebooks that I keep for every one of my stories, and I will go ahead and start writing scenes out in a notebook. Take a shower, a bubble bath. We talked about that. Create sacred writing space. So the space that I'm in right now is my office. And this is, it's a little chaotic because I've been writing downstairs, which might also be a reason why I'm having issues, is because I'm not writing in this space, which seems to work fairly well for me because I've got a lot of light. I've got reference books over on a shelf over here. And, it just feels very comfortable and creative to me. So I usually do get a lot of stuff done whether I'm actually doing work, business stuff for my writing, or whether I'm actually writing. Another thought is, and this will probably be very hard for you for those of you that like to write linear from beginning to end, but I never finished a book until I started writing out of order. And what I mean by that is, if you're going through your book and you're stuck, like let's say you have to write a fight scene, a love scene, a very emotional, tear-jerking scene, you're just like, I am just not feeling it because the bandwidth of writing that scene takes so much out of you. Don't just put in like a little, like highlight the section, do some sort of tag it in the manuscript. Basically, like I usually do like big capital letters and highlight it yellow and say write love scene or write fight scene. And then I just move on to the next piece of it. Or if you just need to transition from one scene to another, but you're not sure how to end one scene, I've done that a lot too. And I'll do the same thing, capital letters all the way across, yellow highlight, and put in transition scene is what I'll do. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but sometimes if you just allow yourself to stop and move on to the next part of the manuscript and leave that undone, you'll still gain momentum. I think it was with this spy book that I'm doing, I actually stopped the beginning and like really went to a section that I wanted to write. I wanted to write about the hero coming home to his castle and kind of see, have him meet his extended family for the first time. So I wanted to write that scene. And so I did. I just skipped it and put basically finish the house scene or something. I don't remember how I worded it. And I literally moved on to the next thing. And I do a template where I basically put in all the scenes that needed to be written, and then I'll make them chapter headings when I go to write the scene. And so I moved down to like chapter 7 or something like that. And I went ahead and it was like after the dark or the black moment even. So I went there and I'm like, I want something light, fluffy, because that black moment was so hard to write. And so I wanted something lighter. And so I did this transition where I moved him to his property in Scotland and had him meet his extended family. And I thought it brought in like the humor and stuff like that. So it kind of lifted it up a little bit, but that's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But if you can move past one thing or just put in a note and say, even like highlight and say, I'm not sure how to end this, and put in something to highlight it so you don't forget to go back and do it. So I've done that before too, gone all the way through the manuscript. I'm like, oh, the book is done, and go back and I'm like, oh crap, I got like 4 scenes I have to write. So that could be the downfall of it. But I encourage you to give it a try, because maybe something will click and you'll be able to get a manuscript done. Like I said, I never really finished one until I allowed myself to do this process. So that may not be you, but it was me. So life events. This is what we've been talking about with the events of the last 3 years. And it happens to everybody from time to time. Some are joyous, some are tragic, some are just unknown. But all changes can be disrupting to your writing process. So for me, before the pandemic, my mother died, that my father died they both died during the pandemic. And so I had a lot of issues going on there. So I really didn't write during the pandemic based on life events outside of the pandemic, but there were things about that just made that process slower, like dealing with my my family's assets and being certain facilities being locked down or not accessible. And so those sorts of things, I really just didn't have the bandwidth to go ahead and write a story. So my recommendation on life events is take some time away from your WIP. And this is going to be different for every person. Some people are going to need a good year, 2 years, depending on what's going on. That is okay. It's problematic if you are under contract or deadline, or you've set unrealistic expectations of yourself. But if you need that time, take it, or write very slowly. Like a good example for me is every holiday season, I don't limit, but I give myself permission to not write. I try and write about 200 words a day if I sit down at the computer, and once that's done, I'm done. If I write more than that, great. But if I only write 200 words a day or miss a day, it's not the end of the world. So I kind of, take that on and just know that that's a slower time anyway. So another thing that I do is I do morning pages, but a lot of people probably look at this like journaling. And I would say if you're going through some sort of crisis, journaling can be very helpful, especially for writers. If you're a painter, painting can be helpful. If you do some sort of other creative process in your life, then take up, put those emotions onto the page, basically, because it will help unburden you, which can be very nice too, because I know for a lot of people, the mental health state of people during stressful times when they couldn't see their therapist or meet with their friends and talk over problems, or maybe their friends weren't as accessible even by video or by phone or whatever. If you don't get these feelings out, they'll build up and they can cause real issues. So feed but I would say too, if you have any mental issues at all, if you have, I know I have family members that have seasonal affective disorder, and I have some family members that are bipolar. And so I know that these things can be real stresses. So get professional help, just to keep for your own mental health and your own sanity. Get professional help, especially if you know that these are things that are going to cause you issues. Feed your muse creatively. Try something other than writing. So like I said, I'll do scrapbooking. I also do, I'll do color pages. So painting, music, knitting, scrapbooking, coloring, anything that you do creatively outside of writing, go ahead and do that, because it could be that you've like forced yourself to try and write and it's not coming, and you need to feed the well, as, Julia Cameron says. You need to feed that well, and you need to do things outside of writing so that you can write. So, you're basically helping your process to write. So, and then find balance in your new reality, whatever that is. Find balance. If you watched my last month's video, you know that my theme for this year, 2023, is balance. And so trying to find balance without having, like, in where we are now, because this is a new reality from what it has been. So for me, it's getting back to routine, because I'm a very routine person. I like to get up at a set time. I like to go to bed at a set time. I like to do things on certain days. I actually have like a breakfast menu that I follow, so I don't even really have to think about it. I know on Monday I'm having oatmeal. I know on Friday I'm having French toast. I know on Saturday I'm having Tuscan eggs. I mean, I have a whole thing, at least for breakfast, that I've gone through, and I just know what I'm going to make for breakfast that day. So it's like something I don't really have to think about. And then I like try and do my errands all on Wednesdays, not this week because I'm going to be traveling on Sunday, but when I am consciously aware of what my schedule is, even if it's not normal, like my normal routine or what I would like to be my routine, I can adjust pretty quickly. So like right after this, my husband and I have some errands to run that we would normally do. Well, actually, we would normally do them on Friday. But we're going to go to the gym, and then we're going to go run our errands. And then I'll kind of be back in a routine. And tomorrow we're going to go grocery store shopping because I have to do it before my trip. So I think finding balance or knowing what your schedule is going to be in the next week can be extremely helpful in basically finding routine again. So I think those are pretty much the talking points I had for the day. I don't know that anybody joined us, but that's okay. And I hope that they helped you. I will put a link below to the Rebecca Rebecca Syme. Am I saying her name right? Anyway, I'll put a link to that below, as well as some other stuff that might be helpful for you in the show notes. So I look forward to seeing you guys next month, which will be March 3rd at 11:30 a.m. So pencil me in for lunch.